Thank you. Of course, it's fairly heavy on the heart to hear what has been going on in the previous session and following on to talk about how a historical event, an important historical event, may have useful things to say about the predicament that we're in is a leap. I mean, one may be, given the concerns of ordinary Sudanese at the minute, one may be slightly whistling in the wind, but I hope that at least documenting such events may be, there will be a time when they will be useful. Talking about the lessons of 1924 is, I think the whole issue of 1924 have become, in a sense, of significant interest to both political activists and historians alike, because such key moments in the struggle of the Sudanese people offer a view of what is possible and what is not, as we contemplate the prospect of a clear path out of the current fix that people have been talking about earlier, in order to resume our quest for civilian democratic rule and the task of rebuilding our society on a new basis. What I want to say about that is that, reflecting on the possible useful lessons of 1924, it has to be made clear in the light of current historical research, which is, I must say, one has to be thankful for both Kurita, Dr. Yoshika Kurita and Dr. Elena Vizzedini for the looking at the 1924 from the perspective of examining the granular details of the events and the personalities behind them. Their work has illuminated a period of Sudanese history that has for a long time been shrouded in mystery and misinformation and deliberate lies. It's a kind of labor that has a decisive role in catalyzing the current the creation of fact-based, authentic new political culture, especially now when it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell whether even the National Archive we have in Sudan will be there when this war ends. It emerged, of course, in that part of the archives that are connected with 1924 and with the Jewish community in Sudan, and also with the Nile water negotiations, 1929, has been missing from the. It was actually quite likely that it will never be recovered again. And that is why I think we have to say that, of course, also the National Museum is in danger. And I think that's why we have to say, because it is our patriotic duty now, as well as our moral duty, to end this war and end it quickly. I think we have now sufficient evidence to allow us to clear the confusion about the motives and the ideas that animated the movement of 1924. Despite constant attempt to devalue and belittle the events, it is no surprise to discover that it was part of a broader global nationalist anti-colonial wave that has swept the British colonial possessions the world over. But in Sudan was particularly influenced directly by the Egyptian nationalist movement that developed in lockstep with the growth of a newly emerging European educated middle class in that country, guided by the modernization zeal of Sultan Muhammad Ali and the open contact he allowed bright members of that social class with Western arts and sciences. As a result, it developed an avid interest in Enlightenment ideas of natural rights, political liberty, and the social contract between the government and the government. Given that Sudan and Egypt were governed from the same political center throughout the 19th century, and the first 2 decades of the 20th century, except for, of course, as we know, the Mahdi's years, enough time for educated Sudanese to be incorporated into an Arabic-speaking cultural community with disdain for foreign rule. When the political current inspired by these ideas were publicly suppressed in an colonial mass protests during the First World War in Egypt, it was only a matter of short time before the ferment reached Sudan. It would be slightly misleading to suggest that the Sudanese were merely aping the Egyptians. It is undeniable that the Sudanese have sensed a pathway that could carry their cause all the way to the Paris peace talks, alongside the Egyptian claim to independence. This political outlook is made possible with the accusation that the 1924 was an Egyptian plot possible. But seen through the political lens, it is clearly a strategic alliance between the struggles of two people yearning to be free from the yoke of the same hegemon. When you look at the record, you would read as the telegrams that had been sent to the Egyptian authorities, and including the Governor General, by the leaders of the White Flag League. For instance, to quote one of the telegraphs, our dignity will not permit us to be like animals which are bought and sold without taking of their opinion. This is how the movement leaders addressed the Governor General in one of their telegrams, engaging the authority on the question of sovereignty of the people. Of course, this is comes out of the ideas of John Locke. If you read the literature of the White Flag League, you are left with no doubt this is a movement solidly committed to argue its anti-colonial case on the same ground that the entire colonial enterprise rested upon. By advancing a philosophically grounded claim for self-determination, this gives it the widest possible appeal, and in truth, it also attracted the widest possible support from all sections of society. The leadership of the current civilian leadership could perhaps have taken a bit of a leaf out of that repertoire. Just about the years of 2019, when it became clear that a clear indication of where the country is going has to be made. A decisive claim for democratic governance that would have distinguished them, the civilian leadership, from the contender. I still don't understand why they didn't initiate a call for an elected constituent assembly or ceding local governance to resistance committees, as did the White Flag League exercise of determining popular will through nationwide petition, and that was a key tactic that they followed in order to put their case before the Egyptian parliament and eventually to the Paris conference, and of course, but it never reached there. So the civilian forces in 2019 instead mired in endless discussion about whether to partner with the military in government and who is to run which portfolio. This universalist framing of the movement political aim also helped enhance and bolster the efficacy of its tactics and methods of popular protest. This also enabled us to consider the second and equally relevant lesson that perhaps can be learned from their tactics and methods. The movement's unwavering commitment to peaceful political protest is awe-inspiring, and this happened almost half a century before political scientists like Gene Sharp and have indicated that these tactics of unseating authoritarian regimes and their legacies of offering the best chance of survival for a successor democratic political system. The White Flag League also demonstrated unflinching commitment to the strategic alliance with the Egyptian movement for independence, as the 1924 mass mobilization drama unfolded during the summer and the winter months. When Sudan was under news blackout, the Egyptian press and parliament acted as a conduit for information about what's going on in Sudan to the rest of the world, details of which eventually reached British Parliament, where questions were asked on the floor of the House by Liberal MPs. This commitment to both people's to both peoples, i.e. the Egyptian, through their struggle, through their joint struggle, was commendable. But when viewed through the present-day irrational and mutual suspicion between civilian Sudanese forces and the Egyptian civil society, it is difficult to understand. The Sudanese side tends to divide into two camps, one that considers Egypt Sudan's kingmaker and treats her as such, and another stricken with Egyptophobia. The Sudanese political elite, since independence, failed to develop a balanced relationship with Egypt, let alone a strategic one that equally benefits both people. As it exists, it is a relationship that has always swung, equal between clientelism and paternalism. If Sudan is to emerge out of this war without any positive hope for the future, its regional and international policies will have to be subjected to serious overhaul. And thoughtful policy towards Egypt will have to be a priority. It is not enough to adopt a stance that avoids the push and pull of regional axis. It is essential that the civilian forces develop a clear vision of what is Sudan's strategic national interest and go about diligently securing it. Perhaps the final lesson of 1924 have to offer us is the message they signaled so clearly by that photograph with 4 leading members of the Central Committee 1, Salih Abdel Ghadir, Rabat Haji Lamin, and Ali Abdel Latif, and Hassan Sharif. When that picture was taken, when that picture was taken, slavery in Sudan was legally practiced within living memory in parts of Sudan. For that time, it is not simply a positive acknowledgement. That picture is not simply a positive acknowledgement of the rich ethnic diversity of the country, but at the same time, a message of hope for a future society of equal citizenship. One way to respond to that message is for all civilian and political forces to commit to include in every political party and civil society organization program a common charter of equal citizenship that will guarantee equality before the law and guarantee human rights for all citizens in a country many of its citizens sadly still lack those protections. Thank you.